Is your gel cured? How do you know? Let's talk about it. So the most common problem with curing is often in the darkest colors. So let's play with black. We'll find the problem and then I'll show you how you can fix it. Okay, I'm going to use my Midnight Easy Gel, hybrid gel. Some people call it polygel. That's a brand, but this product is called hybrid gel. So the reason why the darker colors, it's not just black's fault. It's any really deep pigmented color. I'm just going to go right to black because it's the darkest color. And the reason being is because the light is not able to get all the way through it. So with the secret with black, which I'll show you after this, but let's establish the problem first. So let's get some black on here. Now with black and any dark color, we know we want to go a little bit thinner. So let's have that in mind. So I don't have to over exaggerate and do this super, super thick. Of course it's going to not cure, right? So let's still try to be realistic. And we're going to shape this. We're just using a little bit of alcohol here. I use 70% alcohol, that's all you need. And I'm just shaping this. I love the darker colors and black is one of my favorites. Okay, so let's pull this nice and thin, but still give us our black color that we want. So we're being realistic. Okay, so let me just show you here how thick that is. How thick it is, how thin it is. See how thin that is? Okay, that's really thin, right? Okay. So let's give it a nuke. Now, one of the ways to make sure your gel isn't undercured, make sure you're using the manufacturer's instructions. So if they say it's 30 seconds, do it 30 seconds. If they say it's 90 seconds, do it 90 seconds. So the point is you want to make sure that you're following the manufacturer's instructions of what you're supposed to cure that gel at. This gets to be a really confusing area. You should also be using the lamp that they recommend that you use to cure that gel product. Also, when we're not curing products is when we start mixing all sorts of lamps and different types of gels. Sometimes it can work, but if it doesn't work, it could be because you're using the wrong lamp. It also could be that your lamp is getting old. Oh, we're getting down to it, 7-6 seconds left. Maybe your bulbs are just dying. You need a new lamp. Okay, so we're going to look at this now. That's a nice, beautiful coat of black. I'm going to take off the sticky layer. I'm going to cut it in half. So I'm going to clip this and find out if this thickness and the recommended cure time cured it. Okay, so I'm looking at this now, and that's a nice thinness, but I'm going to squeeze it really hard. Really hard. Okay, so that thickness and that amount of time with this lamp is cured, okay? But that's not super thick. If you like your nails a little bit thicker, then if you make this black a little bit thicker, it's going to ooze out and it's not going to be cured, and I'm going to show you that. But look at that. That is cured. I'm not oozing any gel out of there. Let's show you what it looks like when it doesn't cure. So that is the correct thickness. If I went any thicker, I'm going to tell you it's not going to be cured under there. With black, you want to go quite thin. You're better to go with gel polish 3 or 4 thinner layers than you are to go with 2 thicker layers. And when I'm talking thicker, I'm still talking thin, but it's a very fine line. It's all in the details with this between working and not working. So let's put another thin layer on. Now, the end of that tip was cured, but we don't know if it's cured in the apex part, especially if you're using this as a builder. That's where the secrets comes in. I can show you how to avoid that. But let's put this in about the same thickness because we're trying to build this nail. I'm going to put it about the same thickness. Okay, so let's give it a good cure. Okay, so this is our built layer. This is the sculpted layer that we've done. We're building the nail. Let's remove that dispersion layer. And now let's cut it. So we're going to cut it. It's so curvy, it's hard to get in there. We can bend that tip right back. Okay, so now we're going to squeeze it. Now that layer on top is not that thick. It's just about as what I wanted. Can you see that? Can you see that, Cameraman? Is it coming out?
Oh yeah, I see it.
It's literally
like
squeezing out.
Toothpaste out of a tube.
Yeah. Let me get a tip here to show you. Look at that. That is all uncured gel. Sandwiched between, right? And it's not that thick. I mean, it is thick. That's about what nails look like sometimes when you're putting the product on and then you're sculpting it off to shape. So what would happen is when you start sculpting this, you're probably going to sculpt right into the gooey matter that is uncured. And why that matters is it can lead to allergies. And that's what we don't want. We just don't want uncured product on our fingernails when we're going about our world and our day. And then when we come to the salon to file these off, the nail technician is mostly at risk, actually, because they're putting the uncured shaved products all over their hands all of the time. And look at some of it still coming out. See that? Yuck. Yeah, So the most common time, too, you'll see that is when you're gel polishing nails. You put the gel polish on, and it's what you think is a good layer. You nuke it, and then you do a second layer, you cure it, and then if you find it's peeling a week or so later or sooner, it could be that you've applied it too thick and there's a possibility it's not cured. Sometimes you can even peel it off and you can expose runny, gooey gel like that in your gel polish. Here's a tip when you're doing gel polish. The problem is most commonly found uncured gel in thumbs. And the reason is when we're polishing, I've done videos on this actually, when we're gel polishing, leave your thumbs to last. If you're wearing a darker color, you might even want to do them separately. When you're doing your polish, your gel polish, do your pinky or first finger to the pinky or pinky to the first finger, and then leave your thumb to last. And what I mean is do all 8 and the person is nuking like this, but then when you're finished, do the thumbs so they can sit upright inside the lamp. The reason being is when you do the thumbs, even if you do it last, if it's sitting inside the lamp like this, and your hand down like this, look at the thumb. Let's get a good look at that thumb. See? The thumb is laying on its side. It's not upright like these fingers where they're parallel to the light. Now, a lot of good lamps will have a light on the thumb area, and I'll show you that. So when your thumb is laying on its side, it's pooling on this side. Now, this is not so common with lighter colors. Clear, for example. Let's go the other extreme. You won't have this problem with clear. And you won't have it with a light pink or a see-through color because they're able to get the light right through. With a black or a darker color, I find this a lot at Christmas. This is the time when you're a nail technician, you're in a hurry, and it starts to pool on the side with all those darker reds and stuff, and then you get behind because somebody noticed it wrinkles. That's a big indication. Either your lamp is not compatible, your bulbs are getting old, or it's just too thick of an application and it's pooled on the thumb. And you have to take it all off and start again. So the best way to remedy that is to do the thumbs separately, especially at Christmas time. I would always do the thumbs separately with those darker colors. Save you a big headache. Okay, so when you're working with black hybrid gel, in my case it's Easy Gel, how do you build a nail and not have oozing uncured black gel everywhere? Okay, this is how we're going to do it. Okay, so let's just buff up this thumbnail and prep it for the product. I got my new little mini bits here. I'm in love with them. I call them baby sanding bands, and they are really great for educating actually because they're so tiny you can see exactly where you're going. The bigger ones work fantastic too, but they're just harder to see exactly where you are. So they're great for when you're first learning. Okay, gonna buff that off. Now my adhesion that I use, I call it bridge. So when you're applying your bridge, and this is an adhesion for gel in particular, and my hybrid gel in particular, you want to do it in circular motion so you can really kind of get into those grooves that you've roughened up the nail to really adhere well. This stuff is excellent for adhesion. You can also put this underneath gel polish to make a better adhesion. Okay, so we're going to cure this for 60 seconds. The whole issue with the dark color is the depth and the thickness. So we want to reduce that a little bit so we don't have to deal with the uncured gel in between. So the best way to do that, and this is really the only procedure I really like to put a clear layer. I never put a clear layer underneath, with it, whether it's gel, acrylic, only if it's on the natural nail plate to protect the natural nail plate from the color or glitter you're putting down. But for the free edge, I will never do this. I only do this for this particular technique. This is only just to make sure my black is cured all the way through. So when you use clear, you're using your clear as part of the structure and the build. That's going to take up the thickness that you don't want to use in your color. So we're going to apply this. Now I'm just putting a thin layer where I want this to be. Now I will put a thin layer on my natural nail where I want the black to go. Let's do an ombre. Ombre black is one of the hardest things to do, especially in hybrid gel, but we're gonna try that today. And the reason why I'm putting the clear up along here is because I want to put the black on top of there, and I don't want the black to be directly onto my nail plate. And for anybody who's concerned about that gap where the paper appears not to be completely underneath, it doesn't have to be. Not with a thick product like this. Hybrid gel is a very thick product, so it's just going to float over top between the natural nail and the product. You could cut the form if you like, but you don't have to. Now, just for the finer details, because it's all in the details, I've got a thin layer of clear on here, but I'm going to make it quite thin as I go toward the tip, because think about the way nails are built. They're higher in the apex, and then they come smaller toward the tip. So I think about that when I'm sculpting. If I leave it too thick toward the tip, if you're filing and doing that shape with your black, you're going to end up with a clear tip on the end, which can look really cool, but it might not be the look that you're going for. Okay, I'm just going to give this a proper 60-second cure. Okay, now let's gently take off the form. Now it's super thin, remember that? So we don't want to rip it off too hard. The best way to do it is just to pinch underneath here. See how thin that is? I'll put my finger on the tip of it so you can see. It's basically paper thin. See that? Super thin. So we want this really thin. There is a dispersion layer. We want to leave that because we're going to add the black next. One thing I do want to note too is this is probably going to be really dirty. But let's take a look at this. This is the reality of a light. See how my fingers are right on this band here? That's what you want. This placement has a lot to do when you're curing. This is the inside of the light, right? See the indent on the side? Then the other side too, when you use your other hand, of course. This is for your thumb placement. Often lamps will have that to give you a guide of where to put your hand. So as a customer, it's good to know those little rules. Oh, and then the light on the inside. So here we have the lights. When you have your little thumb in that little indent there, these lights on the side, see those little lights? When you put your thumb in those little spots, those little indents, these are thumb lights. Lights have come a long way. They're really great. That's thinking about your thumb, right? So it is really trying to do the job for you. So placement is also huge in the proper curing process. Okay, so half of my nail that I'm building here in this design, it's going to be a black ombre, is built with clear. And I know clear is going to cure because there's no pigment in there to stop it. Now I can apply my black as thin as I want. And we know the thinner black is, the better and more reliably cured it's going to be. So I'm going to put that here. I'm going to do an ombre with this. Now with an ombre, it is fading as it goes toward the free edge, and it's staying solid thereafter. So I really want that solid black right to the very end. This is Susie's pink mix. We're going to use that for the bed of the nail. So one of the biggest takeaways from this is don't add your dark color and make it mostly your structure. You're just using it as the color, just as the design. Use everything else clear underneath and clear on top. That will be building your structure. And as a side note, this is an ombre. I have to say, if you're doing an ombre, clear capping will help you keep the design of the ombre. When you're doing an ombre, this is like ombre stuff, and we'll get into that for just a split second. When you're doing your black, you want to make it nice and thin. When you're doing your pink, you want it to be opaque enough to cover, but it is part of the design. So if you clear cap the whole thing, you will preserve what you've done right here. If I just start filing this and shaping it now, I'm going to start to file away that pink. And that pink is thin, and it's part of my design. So clear capping the whole thing preserves the design that you've done. So we want to now take our clear cap, I said clear cap, take our clear, and we're going to cap with it, but we just want to take our clear. This also works for acrylic and hard gel as well. You just want to create the design, and then we want to encapsulate it with a clear. So we're going to put a clear over the whole thing. Now I won't go back all the way to the cuticle because it's not necessary. We don't want to make that cuticle any thicker. The pink made the cuticle perfect. We don't have to put tons on here. We just want enough to preserve and clear cap the design. That was way too much, so I just took off the extra. Better than filing it, right? Okay, so now I'm just going to cure that. I'm going to go ahead and shape this up. If you're interested in shaping and filing video, check this one out. Okay, so I've got this all buffed up. Now let's just top coat it to take a look at the final result. Ombres are hard, but once you get the knack of it, they're absolutely stunning. Okay, there's nothing like a top coat to help your design come to life. Okay, so let's give that a cure. Give it a full 60-second cure with this particular brand. Always check that to make sure you're getting a full cure. Okay, so now I'm just going to put the oil on, and then we're going to take a look how thin it is. Now, if you're worried, don't worry about these crusty little white bits in there. In fact, if you don't see those, I would be a little bit more worried than if you do. The oil will just take care of all of that. I'm going to put the oil in here too. Now let's take a look how thin this is. Now remember, we did 3 layers. We did a clear, a black, a pink, which is not over top of the black, just partially, and then clear. So essentially we got 4 layers on there, and we're going to look how thin it is. See how thin that is? Now it's hard to photograph because you can see reflection, but I want you to see how thin that is. I just want you to see. I'm trying to get a good visual on how thin that is. When you're talking, there's 3 or 4 layers on there, right? Look how thin that is. And look how black it is, right? That's what you want. You want it to be black. That's beautiful. Okay, so I hope that helped you with your curing issues, or most important, to prevent those curing problems, which will eliminate allergies. Thanks for joining me.